I had an interesting exchange on LinkedIn just the other day about the use of the phrase town hall to describe some sort of all-staff business meeting. Typically, the town hall is the meeting where the organisation will unveil the strategy for the coming year, or they'll update the staff on what's going on. And quite often communications professionals and PR people are involved in putting together that meeting. And I said on LinkedIn that I didn't think that phrase should be used, and then I was challenged to explain why and what was wrong with it. The phrase I used was I considered that phrase elitist, which seems to have upset a few people. Now, LinkedIn and social media is not really the place to get into the nuance of language. I'm always happy to do that, but probably not on LinkedIn, because experience tells me that it just bores people rigid, and then things get twisted and taken out of context. So I thought I'd explain it here on my podcast. So why don't I like the phrase town hall? Well, the first thing is I am pretty certain that most of the staff will not call it that. So I think it's a language that is used by typically senior management, communications professionals. It's language used by people who are involved in setting up and facilitating that meeting. I hesitate to use the phrase rank and file, but you know what I mean. The rest of the staff, in my experience, typically wouldn't use that phrase. Secondly, it's totally inaccurate. Your meeting is not a town hall. A town hall is a physical space, probably in a large town centre with a large clock above it that probably chimes, and it's maybe got function suites now that they lease out for weddings and other ceremonies. So your meeting is not a town hall. So there's a huge inaccuracy there. I also think it's totally grandiose. It's like, who do you actually think you are? You're suggesting that this meeting, where your management team are going to announce the strategy for the coming year, even if you're going to take questions, even if you're going to ask your staff what they think, what on earth makes you think that in any way equates to a fundamental tenet of our democracy, which is voting in a local authority election? If you actually think that these two things, or think that your staff are going to think that these two things are remotely comparable, then in my view, you need to kind of reboot in what you're doing with all of this, because these things are completely different. So you're promising something, or you're suggesting something that cannot be delivered. Then we get to, and somebody said this on LinkedIn, all right, you suggest an alternative. And I said, well, just because there's no obvious alternative or perfect alternative doesn't mean that we use something that I think is elitist, or at least the language of the elite, misleading, and possibly meaningless as well, and overly grandiose. Now, there are alternatives that we used to use before this phrase polluted our lexicon. When I was growing up, it was an all-staff meeting. Now, there's a problem with that, of course, what about freelancers? What about people who are not staff? All right, okay, well, could we call it an all-team meeting? Well, that's a little bit clunky, isn't it? And God, there's that word team again. Just call it a meeting. Just call whatever you like, but please do not refer to it as a town hall. And the reason it's divisive is because what happens among the staff is you get a group of people who use that language, and you get a group of people who are alienated by it. And those are the people that you most want to that you most want to reach with this message. You've got to get these people involved. And I am telling you, there are very few things that I would ever really insist on. I am telling you that phrase is divisive and alienates the very people that you want to reach the most. So please don't use it. Please say something else. Test it. Ask the staff what phrase they use. Eavesdrop on them. Listen to them. And if I have got this dreadfully wrong, then please do come back and tell me. And if you've got a workable alternative, I'd love to hear what that is as well.